All right, let's get started. So, hello and a very warm welcome to another session for Employee Center Customer Show and Tell. I'm Smriti Gupta, Outbound Product Manager with Unified Employee Experience Team. I am joined by Pooja Gupta, who's a Senior Manager, Outbound Product Management with Unified Employee Experience Team. She'll be co-hosting the event with me today. And today we'll be discovering Expedia's Employee Center implementation journey. So today's session is part of Live on ServiceNow Events Umbrella, which is a curated event series to connect you with ServiceNow experts. And you can see the schedule for other events under Live on ServiceNow umbrella by scanning the QR code on the screen. Just some basic housekeeping rules for this session. We'll be recording today's presentation, but the recording will not be shared externally. Since today's presentation is confidential, please help us maintain the confidentiality of the content in this session by not copying, recording, or sharing the content of this presentation. We'll try to answer your questions throughout the duration of this session. So please keep us posted on your questions in the Q&A panel. And we'll also try to dedicate some time towards the end of the session for any questions or comments that you may need to discuss. After the event, you'll be prompted for a very short survey. Please do help us improve by providing your valuable feedback. Other than that, if you have any comments, please do keep them posted on the chat session, but please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A panel only. We are just monitoring the Q&A panel for questions, not the chat. So just to set some context there, we'll start with an introduction to Employee Center. I'll talk about what it is, why we built it, and so on. And then we will deep dive into the meat of this presentation. That is deployment story for Expedia. So Employee Center is intended to be the digital front end that we are creating for organizations for enabling not just service delivery and employee communications, but also to drive experiences that increase the self-service within your organization, thereby improving case deflections and improving employee engagement. So basically, doing away with swivel chair experiences for your end users or your employees. So I won't go super deep in this slide since we are all excited for the Expedia story today. But in terms of our vision, we are looking to build a unified employee experience platform that delivers capabilities across three key themes. The first one is focused on service delivery. So it is making sure that these services are built with a purpose and offered in an easy to understand language for the employees. The second theme is targeted communication that makes sure that the employees have the right kind of information highlighted for them at the right time. And the last theme we have is unified systems that ensures that the employee experience platform is actually being able to connect with multiple different systems and provide a unified experience. When it comes to the portal aspect, our goal is to help organizations transition from isolated departmental service portals to an enterprise portal. So most organizations currently have siloed portals. So there's a separate portal for IT, a separate one for HR, and so on. And then they might have different point solutions like Workday or SAP or something else. And then there are multiple different places where employees and managers need to go to get their tasks done. What we want to do is we want to help organizations move away from those siloed portals to an enterprise portal that is multi-department in nature and acts as a single access point for many different applications. So you will see Employee Center comes with two packaging, Employee Center Standard and Employee Center Pro. Now, Employee Center Standard has the ability to connect multiple different departments and offer that unified service portal experience. And then Employee Center Pro actually extends it with capabilities such as app launcher, employee communications, experience and service feedback, enterprise search, employee news, and many more such advanced capabilities, which is basically being able to search um, and provide that enhanced search and browse experience within your employee portal. So Employee Center Pro literally elevates the foundation that you have created with Employee Center Standard for just offering services to creating more engaging and modern experience for employees. There's a lot of content to be covered with respect to Employee Center Pro and Standard, but this is not the right platform to deep dive into those details. So I'll just let you have access to these other events that we are organizing on an ongoing basis. We have academy sessions to deep dive onto our features and capabilities. Then we have office hours, employee communications office hours, and deployment office hours, where the product and engineering team sits with you every month to resolve your questions live. And then we have the product webinars ongoing. So all of these details are also present on our Employee Center Product Hub. You can see the link on the screen and the QR codes. With that, moving on to Expedia's implementation. So, Expedia Group has been one of the world's largest travel platforms. They are backed by more than 20 years of tech innovation for delivering best-in-class experiences to their customers. And with that thought process, this has also been reflected in the experience that they provide to their employees. Today, we have Houston representing Expedia Group as a principal product manager with the people tech function within the organization. He comes with an immense 10 years of ServiceNow experience with Expedia Group across both ITSM and HRST4 modules. So I let Houston add on to that introduction and then continue with the presentation. The floor is yours, Houston.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen here real quick. And just to confirm, do you see the presentation side or the notes side?
We see the note side.
Okay. Perfect. So thank you so much for the introduction. As you stated, I'm Houston Chatham Wright here with Expedia Group. I've been here for 14 years. And just for context, I sit within the people technology space. And so people technology at Expedia Group is essentially the HR tech that supports HR, employee communications, as well as I&D, so inclusion and diversity. And then we are connected at the hip to our peers over in corporate IT who own the ServiceNow platform. So what we'll talk about today will be about that journey with multiple teams across EG to be able to launch our Employee Center Pro instance. High level, we'll talk about just, Expedia Group as a whole, so you can know a little bit more about us and our staffing, our evolution, and then we'll go into more of a deep dive of where we started, take a look at where we are today, our technology landscape, and then show a couple of capabilities that we have within Employee Center Pro. So for those that are not familiar with Expedia or might think of Expedia and Expedia.com as the primary, that is one of our brands, but so you know, we actually have over 20 globally relevant brands. And those might be things like Travelocity and Orbitz and Vrbo, commonly outside of our company known as VRBO. But we have over 20 relevant brands, 200 travel sites, and we operate out of 70 different countries. From an employee base, we have a little over 16,000 employees, 4,000 contingent, They operate out of either virtual locations or 110 offices in 48 countries. So we are very globally diverse. One of the things I will say as we do move through the presentation today, just for awareness, we are a heavily desked population. So I do know that different industries have different employee bases and where you need to meet them. One thing I will say is a lot of what you see today is focused around the fact that our employees are desked or always on a laptop. And so I'll put it out there right now, our approach is really that desktop experience and ensuring the desktop experience is mobile friendly. So everything we do, we make sure that when you go to AskEG, which is our Employee Center Pro on your phone, that you're getting that same consistent experience, but we don't actually use the mobile app and we don't heavily focus on the mobile side just because of our employee base. So as we think about our evolution, this is our high level over the last 6 years, kind of where we've been and where we started our journey. So we started, as most do, we started here with HR having a portal and IT having a portal separate from each other. They were both just service portals. HR only had knowledge at the time, and then it was supported by email addresses that had inbound actions to create cases for us. IT did have a catalog. So that's really where we got started. We got to understand what are our case volumes, what's happening, really, how are we supporting employees and start getting that first kind of toe in the water, if you will. Then in 2020, just prior to COVID, right at the beginning of the year, we launched People Hub, which was the Employee Service Center. And so we moved on to that. IT remained on their service portal. But one of the things that we wanted was we wanted additional capabilities like AI search. Content publishing and campaigns was a huge one for us as we try and make sure to provide pertinent information to our employees. And then we also launched the virtual agent. You see a gap here as we get to AskEG in 2022. A lot of things happened between 2020 and 2022, so we were focused on some other things. But as we transitioned into the beginning, March of 2022, we did launch Employee Center Pro. And it was the first time that we have brought facilities, IT, and HR together on a platform. We launched Employee Center Pro, and then the core capabilities with that initial launch were things like the dynamic topic pages, journey management, the mega menu, virtual agent for IT, as well as universal requests. And the universal request was a big one for us just because we were now in a shared environment, which meant there wasn't as much distinction or confidence when a case was open that they knew exactly where it was going. So as we move forward from there, where we would say we are today is we are currently kind of in an expanded version of Employee Center Pro. So, we're on to the fluorescent lighting, if you will, in this journey. And we have enabled pre-hire access to AskEG and then alumni access to AskEG. So from the time that you are hired prior to day one, through a year and a half after you exit, you have access to AskEG and some version of content and support through there. And then additional support mechanisms like the Manager Hub, Your Career, and we did recently launch the news capability as well. And then as we look at where we're going in the future, one thing I'll say is you'll notice it's the LED, it's the current, so it's where we're trying to get to, but I'm sure there will be something else in the future. So it's not the end of our journey by any means, but really being able to say, hey, that next step, now that we have total support within AskEG, is being able to take over our intranet, currently called Basecamp, and say, hey, let's go in, let's refresh AskEG's look and feel. Let's centralize all of our corporate functions. Let's launch Now Assist, and then let's also expand so that SharePoint team sites for individual teams that are in corporate functions can be surfaced in AskEG as well, creating that connected experience. So that's our overall kind of where we've been and where we're going. As we look at where we started and we get into that moment of a deep dive or a double click, We were in a very complex environment. And so we had to come up with a starting vision and figure out where did we want to go with this. And so as we look at our vision, what we came up with was that we wanted a unified platform that was a centralized place for all employees globally to be able to find answers, engage support, or take actions throughout their journey at Expedia Group. And as you look at the slide, you'll notice that the different items below are all different moments that matter, but they are across different teams. So as you see pre-hire and onboarding, as you see credentials and access, payroll, system support, separation, those are things that cross many different teams from a support perspective. So making sure that our focus was on the employee and not the support team. As we think about where we started with this journey too, we're going to look back. We started with People Hub. Facilities was on a SharePoint site. So People Hub was on ServiceNow, Employee Center Pro. Facilities was on SharePoint. IT support was on ServiceNow, while their content was living on SharePoint. So they had a separated experience. You got service and support in one place, you got information in a different place. So we had 4 different portals on 3 different platforms to be able to accomplish everything that we were doing. And the onus was really on the employee to know where to go. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to change that. To change that, though, takes a lot. So we had to come up with an approach, and we had to come up with some guiding principles. So as we think about guiding principles of what does it take to centralize support, it's actually a lot. It's the smallest piece of launching Employee Center in a consolidated environment for us was the actual technical steps. The largest pieces were really coming together as a support function across Expedia Group and saying, what is the experience that we're going to offer? So our key principles here you can see are simplify and consolidate, oversight and scale, and then employee listening. So simplify and consolidate, the first thing that we came up with is that the experience had to be employee-based. And when we talk about employee-based, we're talking about, it's not about the support team. It's not about what does IT do and how do they support? What does HR do and how do they support? It's about the employee who doesn't care who is answering the question. They just want to be able to find their answer or ask their question and have confidence in the answer. That also led us to the fact that we need to be team agnostic. Everything that we did within the portal needed to be team agnostic and needed to feel cohesive. We couldn't have one page or a series of articles that are like, call us, text us, chat with us, do all these things, and then go to a different team and be like, open a case is your only option. So how do you make it feel cohesive so that somebody's like, I don't know, sometimes the button's there, sometimes it's not. I don't know when it is and when it isn't. That's the onus being on the employee, which is not what it should be. And then another key for us was to have success metrics, but ensure that they were aligned across the teams. So being able to go through and truly understand that when we are each talking about the services that we are offering, we're doing that in a consistent manner. And that leadership and others understand that when I say this is our DSAT or this is our search functionality or our tier 0 effectiveness, others understand what that means and they're measuring theirs in the same way. Then some other key things for us were around governance. So as we talk about being team agnostic, we need to continue that. And the way that we continue that is through having a council that makes sure that is not a bottleneck for us, but is reviewing the work that's doing, is meeting on a regular basis and saying, hey, here's the direction that we all are in agreement that we want to go. And that's really important too, when you get to this, you see this piece of ownership. We had to work through who owns it, how do we own it, especially when all 3 of those teams have ServiceNow developers. So HR, IT, and then facilities has one. And so when you think about multiple teams, they can't each go in and develop what they want. It needs to be cohesive. So we had to come up with a strategy and a plan to say, who's the primary owner, who has the most expertise, but also who can offer federated support and make sure that their team is still getting what they need, et cetera. And then being able to think from a scale perspective about onboarding. So being able to think of onboarding and not from an employee onboarding, but from other corporate functions and teams that need support to be able to onboard onto AskEG or onto this platform. So making sure that what we're doing and the way that we are rolling this out and the way that we are building it allows for scale. And then our third option was specifically around listening. This is probably one of the most important ones, and we kind of touched on it with the employee first UX above, but it's all about the employee. If you build something off the perception of what you think somebody wants or what you've heard, know that it will not solve for everybody. And so we took a lot of different things into account when we did this. One of the things we did was we did employee feedback sessions, many of them. We went through designs. We asked them, please order a Miro license, and then watched how they navigated or how they would think they navigated to it. We champagne launched to IT and to people team 2 weeks in advance of the company so that they could go in, play with it. We could get feedback. We could get a lot of things that we could then fix or tweak prior to the full launch. And then another key for us was iterating with intent. It was hard for some in this program, but one of the things is you can't be reactionary. Any change causes friction. So you cannot hear a group of people say, oh, well, I just did this and it was that and it was a bad experience. You do need to listen to that, but you also need to give it a little bit of time for people to learn and change the behavior and then be able to understand where do those pain points remain. And so the biggest thing I can say is not to be reactionary. It's to be decisive and say, hey, we hear it. We're tracking it. If it feels like it's truly getting to a big enough problem, we will make a tweak, but you should never be making tweaks in probably the first 3 or 4 days. You need everybody to be able to use it. You need to truly understand and make sure that you're not making a decision based on the loudest voices. And then the other thing is utilizing data. So being able to utilize that passive data that isn't from listening and say, hey, what are we seeing? Where's the adoption? Where are we seeing the most visits? Where are we seeing the most amount of time, which might not be a great thing? And be able to balance all out and feed all of those things into the decisions that you then make as you go in and make tweaks in the system. So that's kind of where we started and the principles that we took. So now we want to show you where we are today. I'll pause for just one brief moment because I do see 2 questions before I move on. How have you increased adoption of the virtual agent? We've deployed it, but we don't see much uptick in the chatbot or live agent. What I would say with that is actually, it's a continued conversation we have here. Virtual agent makes up roughly 7 to probably 9% of our interactions. And it is, as I talk to many other companies, because we like to level set and benchmark, it's roughly about the same for them. It's not a high uptick. I think there's a couple of different things that influence it, predominantly a lot geographically when we talk to employees don't feel comfortable putting from an HR perspective confidential information into it because it feels conversational. We've tried working through that. We've done a lot of different steps about ensuring the confidentiality, telling them that it's, the same security, it's the same privacy, all of these things you have when you're using the portal directly. But a lot really from the HR perspective don't leverage the HR virtual agent. We do see most of the adoption come from the IT side. Needing support and eventually getting to live chat is a very heavy one for us. But we, at this current point in time, have not focused heavy on the virtual agent from a driving more adoption there until we get to something like Now Assist, where it's more conversational, but also is not just referring you over to an article in the portal. It's providing a lot more answers without us having to build out a full conversation for every one of those questions. So we're slightly in a holding pattern while we do make sure that we do maintain it and we ensure it's a good experience. We just haven't put probably too much time into that. And then the other one was about resources to support portals before and consolidation. The consolidation was slightly different for us because the resources were spread across multiple teams and were also spread across multiple tools. So as we did go through and get to a point of no longer being on SharePoint for different portals and moving that support in, those teams then were just able to refocus on other items and work on other priorities. And then we have actually increased, because we've been so focused in AskEG, we've actually increased the amount of support and resources that we have currently on ServiceNow. So it is one that is a very important thing to us, but we actually didn't consolidate or reduce staffing in any way. We centralized them and increased staffing because of the needs and the functionalities we have now. So taking a look at our landscape, and then we'll get to more questions once we go through this. Looking at our landscape today, and then the approaches that we took. It will advance. There we go. So looking at our technology landscape today, what you can see is we, from the engagement platform, offer web, mobile web, not the app, Slack, and then virtual agent. And the virtual agent is also connected to Slack. So when we talk about Slack, it's used for both outbound communications, but it's also used for that virtual agent experience from that channel. And so we are on Employee Center Pro. We use the core capabilities as you would expect around knowledge management, AI search, universal request, lifecycle and journey management. Outbound communications is a big one for us. And then on the HR side, there is also document management. And we have something that's conversation management. So we have one custom app here that we leverage. It's called Scribe, but we leverage it for our business partners to be able to have and track continuity of conversations they have with their leaders. From an external connection, this isn't all of them, but some of the core ones that I would say are foundational to us. We connect to Workday, which is our HCM. It's our learning and our recruiting. We have AWS for our EG data platform, Okta for authentication, SailPoint for identity, Linnell is our security system, and think physical security, so your badge and things like that, and then Slack. So those are the core external connections that we do have. We have significantly more, but these are the ones I think are really our foundational ones that are just heavy on usage regularly for us. And then that AskEG access and availability, you can see we did pre-hire, active employee, and alumni. One thing we did do, which I know is slightly unique, is we did leverage Employee Center Pro for all three of those. So an employee will only ever use AskEG. They don't have a different onboarding or a different alumni experience. We wanted to train the behavior from the first time they log in. So pre-hires use AskEG, and then the campaigns and the information they see is just locked down or secured differently. But they have the exact same experience throughout, from the first day that they log in to the last day that they log in a year and a half after their exit. It is a universal experience across. So taking a look now, I'm going to show you, we're going to get into AskEG. I'm going to tell you, I took the screenshot this morning. You might look and go, that's the most out-of-box thing, or that is the most generic thing, and know that we both agree, but also aren't hurt by that. So one of the key foundations for us was simplicity and functionality. So Ask AG actually at the end of this month will get a visual overhaul. So it will be a little bit more stunning and more visual than it is right now. Um, but the key for us was functionality over visual. So one of the things we'll talk about here in just a moment is what does that mean and what are those different functionalities? But right here, you can see we started with that out of box. We started with the popular topics, my active items, things like that. And then what you don't see, but is present here, and you'll see it in other screenshots, is we have highly customized the page from the perspective of adding more out-of-box widgets to it. And then they appear dynamically based on what's important to you. Right now, you can see it's time for my mid-year review. So that just popped up. I think that just popped up for me yesterday. But it's time for my mid-year review. So this is just a content publishing or content delivery widget here that shows us what's going on. Same with these two here on the right-hand side. Same with this Ask AG banner. During large-scale events, we replace the Ask AG banner with dynamic ones that help show. So you can see we start pretty simple. But then what we'll talk about is what is that underlying functionality, though, that you don't see until it's present. And so I'm going to cover a quick 5 of them. And some of these are about how we drive people and adoption to Ask AG. Some of them are about how we drive deflection. And some of them are how we drive the experience. So here you can see, not going into each of the items, but in case you took a screenshot, I put some extra words under them. But our key is to be proactive and personalized. We think about personalized versus customized. Our view is that it's not that I want somebody to be able to go in and make it whatever they want. I want them to go in and it already to have been made for what they need. Another key thing for us is supporting and building behavior. And that's on many different things, but I'm going to show you an example. The best way that you can get adoption is through building that behavior with the employees. And so sometimes we enforce it, and we'll talk about that, but sometimes it's just through education and it's through reiteration. And so we'll show a couple of those, and then we'll talk about some of the things we've done from a deflection perspective as well to really make sure that we're driving the best results. So we talk about proactive and personalized versus customized. So here, and in case they don't feel cohesive, it's because I just turned some on so you could see them. But here you can see we have the search bar. You do see the country selector, which is a custom widget that we've built. And that just is allow us for leaders and people who have direct reports in other countries, or if you're relocating, allow you to choose a different country and find articles or policies for that. But some things you see right here is this is a rich content widget. So this is a microsite. We pulled the widget and cloned it from the topic page, and we just simply added it here. But it's about quarterly connects. And what we said was, hey, common questions. Here's 3 core questions, and then the answers that we know. These are the things that we know 80% of the time people are asking us during a quarterly connect season because it's seasonal. And so that's where we go through and have said we should be proactive in that. Before they even search, we want to drive them to both the correct article, which you can see visit article here, but also try and answer it before they even search. And then you can see other things over here, like the upcoming events on the right-hand side. You can see another campaign banner over here on the right saying it's EG Essentials time. So this is where I was talking about. We've customized the page from adding more widgets to it, but the widgets we've actually leveraged here are out-of-box widgets. And so this is where we try and really say we want to stick as close to out-of-box as possible and be able to leverage those capabilities. So we are very notorious for being able to just take something from somewhere else within ServiceNow and place it where we want to try and achieve those results of giving an employee support up front. Moving on from proactive and personalized, we then have the behavior. So here we're looking at Ask EG again. When we started this journey, we had search. One of the examples was one of our key successes was search with no results being reduced and search with no clicks. I don't know if you've ever gone and looked at the user experience dashboard, but you would be shocked once you launch onto this at how many people go and search benefits or search payroll problem. And it doesn't give enough context for AI search to truly understand what you're needing, especially when you're in a shared environment and you've just duplicated so many of those articles, or not duplicated, but expanded how many is available. So a key thing for us in this scenario as well was to go through and say, hey, how do we go after this? So now you can see we did an educational campaign first. We said, let's roll in benefits instead of just benefits, updated distribution list instead of distro. So we took what people were searching, but then we said, try this, not this. We then took that one step further. So this comes up about twice a year. We put this up for 2 weeks as just an educational reminder. But every day we educate employees through enforcing the behavior. So now what we've done is we've come through and said, here's what it was. But now I just said vesting cycle. I searched vesting cycle, and what you'll notice is I got a banner right here that says results not what you expected. We recommend searching specific phrases or full sentences. And that's because I typed under a certain number of characters. So we have used a campaign widget here, or a content delivery widget, and we've just put a script in that says if the search result or the search term is less than, I believe it's 15 characters, then we should just proactively show this banner. And so what you can see in this scenario is I search this as me. So because I see every article, you see, I see Ireland tax saver. But what you're seeing here is you're seeing things that are not about the vesting cycle. When I go in though, and I search an appropriate one, I have a question about my RSU vesting cycle. The top option for me, even still seeing all articles, is now the appropriate one for RSUs. So that's how we try and drive. You'll also notice when I search that full sentence, I no longer got that banner here at the top. So those are some key things that we think about and the way that we try to, with technology, enforce the behavior that will allow, when followed, the better experience for the employees. Some of the other things that we've done from a deflection perspective, and kind of along that same vein, is we have gone through and focused on removing catalog items from search. Let's see if nope, that's that one. So removing catalog items from search was a big one for us as well. So when I said, what is EG's vesting cycle? What you'll notice is I got 15 knowledge articles. The top result was the one that we expected. And I have no, for employees, we call them request forms because they're not going to know what a catalog item is, but I have no request forms. And so that's because what we want you to do is we want you to go click on the article, read the article, and on the right-hand side is where you will find the catalog item. And so this is kind of the goal for us. We only surface catalog items in search if they are a frequent and repeatable action. If your mouse is broke and you're ordering a new mouse, you will see that catalog item in search because that is a frequent or repeatable action that does not require education. If you are asking about Expedia's RSU vesting cycles, that is something that you need to read about. That is something that you need to attempt to find the answer on because that is not just a, hey, I'm locked out of my computer, I need my password reset. Hey, I need a new mouse because I just spilled orange juice on it. That's something that we need to be able to try and educate you first. And so that's why we take this approach to say, if it's not a frequent or repeatable action, then it's something that requires the catalog item to be on the article. And you might think, what if there is no content? I can't tell you because that's not a problem for us. We've got all the content for all the things. But if we don't have the content, what we have is we've given them an out. And that out is what we call the easy button. Probably worst name ever for it, but we call it the easy button. And so what happens is if you search 3 times or view 3 articles in a rolling 11-minute span, then Employee Center Pro determines that you're not finding what you need. And so you can see we use that same campaign widget, but we showed a different campaign in there that says, hey, not finding what you're looking for, raise a ticket. This one on the right-hand side shows up on the articles as well. And so these are giving you an out to say, like, clearly we don't have what you need. So like, we're not going to make you search anymore. You've tried. Here, open a case. Employees don't know when this populates. So they just know that at some point the system will, if they're struggling, pop up. They don't know the logic of it. But what this does is this then opens a universal request. And so that universal request will ask them where they feel their question is more directed towards HR, IT, facilities, etc. But the reason it's opening a universal request is so if they get it wrong and they're like, oh, I think it's facilities, it's about my badge. Well, my badge is actually physical security. It allows us to transfer that case around without creating a poor experience for the employee. The employee doesn't know. They still have the same universal request number, but it has bounced between 2 or 3 teams maybe on the back end in a 30-minute span, and they're none the wiser. They're just able to get the support that they need. So I will pause before I go to the last 2 items, just because I do see quite a few questions in here real quick. So I don't want to get too far away from it. But did you use some kind of LMS to help with training post go live? We did not use an LMS, but we did use a campaign. And so we did actually create short videos as well as an article about AskEG that were posted on the homepage. And then we don't have it active anymore, but for the first quarter, if you hadn't gone there in a month, it would represent itself to you. So we didn't use any actual LMS for it or training course, but we did use a series of videos and knowledge articles to support them, as well as we did use guided tours. How many FTE do you have supporting ServiceNow from a people tech perspective? Up until November of 23, so just last November, we had 2. Because of the work we've done and the investment from our leadership, we now have 7. But our original development through AskEG and up until November of last year was just 2 on the people tech side. IT had 5 on their side, but they also supported all of the platforms, so like just incident management, change, other things. So they probably had 1 that was in partnership with us and people tech. We took the lead for development of AskEG, and then they were just the platform owner, so they provided the platform as a service. But because of all we've done and where we want to go, I will tell you that we are up to 7 engineers now effective today. So so has the third-party integration with business apps robustness? Oh, how has the third-party integration with business apps robustness been? Have you been able to embed these into Employee Center Pro? So we actually have not had too many issues there. The only one I will say is that the integration with Workday, we do have some custom RASs or reports as a service that we have pulled. And that's just because we did pull career and skill data before employee growth and development had launched. We also pulled a couple of different things from Workday just for some internal things that we were working on. So we do use the out-of-box connection, but we do supplement the Workday one with two report as a service integrations. Everything else, so as we think about AWS, as we think about Linnell and those other applications like Okta and IIQ or SailPoint, those are actually using the out-of-box integration, and we have not had issues with them. Really, the only one that we've kind of wanted just a little bit more from is that Workday one. Slack integration experience. So kind of going through that. That is one where it's twofold. We have a custom integration with Slack where we outbound. We do a lot of communications, reminders. So like if you haven't done your quarterly connect or your review, you will actually get a Slack nudge from us. So there is an app in Slack called People Team. And then there's a Slack condition in ServiceNow that allows us to push content delivery out through Slack. So that one is a custom one we wanted because of the outbound communications. The inbound, though, we do leverage the out-of-box, and that's what connects to our virtual agent. The experience using it is pretty on par with what it's like using the portal. The only difference and where we get the most feedback, so we have slightly increased DSAT or dissatisfaction from employees, is that the Slack app doesn't have awareness that you have opened it. So it doesn't greet you and give you the options. You have to type something, and we have over 50 keywords that catch, like if you say hi, hello, that then start that experience for you. Perfect. Let me go through, let me finish these two slides and then I'll continue some questions just to make sure we have time. So, and then I can get answers for in writing if needed. But my last couple of things were just when we came together as IT and HR, IT was like, live chat us, call us, reach out to us any way possible. Moving into a space where HR doesn't do that, we had to think about how do we still lead with education? How do we make that consistent experience? And so from there, you can see that from Portal or from Slack, you can start the virtual agent. But if you're on an article, you'll actually see, and it's an IT article, on the right-hand side where we've trained that behavior for them to go. On the right-hand side of the article, you'll see Get Support. If you launch the virtual agent, what just happened? If you launch the virtual agent, it will require you to go through it before you can get to live chat. If you're on an article, it will just deep link you straight into live chat because we don't want you to search for an article and then go to the VA and have it be like, how can we help you? And recreate that experience. So that is one that we did go through and we had to say, what is the experience that we want and how do we make it consistent for an employee? And that's why we did the right-hand side of the article, because that's where they should be learning that behavior, that's where they go when they need support. And the kind of final key thing for us when we were talking about kind of driving the behavior, but also enforcing it, was we disabled inbound email from any of our corporate domains. If you email from hchatham@expediagroup.com, you will get a kickback that says no case has been created. Hey, and the reason we're doing this is because we know you're logged in. So go to AskEG and try and self-service. So we're preventing you from just being able to say like, oh, here's my question. You need to attempt to self-service. When you go to major brands online, they don't put their phone number in the upper right-hand corner. They attempt to get you to self-service. We go and we figure out what is the appropriate level of friction that we can apply. These are not customers, these are employees, so it needs to be easier. But it doesn't mean that it needs to be just here, I will answer every question you have. I don't want to answer every question an employee has. I want to answer the complex ones about going on leave. I want to answer the complex ones because you have concerns about harassment or you feel that something is truly wrong with your computer at a foundational and it's not just a reboot. We want to talk to you in those scenarios. We don't want to talk to you about what happens if I'm on vacation when my quarterly connect is due. So we really try and balance that out. And that only way we can balance that is by driving them in there. So if you're emailing from your corporate account, you get a kickback. If you're emailing from your personal account because you're on leave, a pre-hire, an alumni, or you're a vendor external to us, we do accept and create the case. So we try and find that balance. But those are kind of some of our core functionalities. Again, when you look at the front page, it is something that's, I'm going to say simple, simplistic, but we do that on purpose. And we are, now that we've been on it for 2 years, we are actually doing a redesign, so it won't look like that anymore. But that was where we wanted to start. We wanted to start with the foundation of simplicity and core functionality. Now that we've got that, now we're expanding and revamping so that the visual appeal will also match that core foundation. So now kind of going on to questions. I'll just finish some of these up and there's quite a few, so I'll try and get through them briefly and then I'll hand back over for closing though. So since you're a global enterprise, when it comes to security for knowledge and case, do you experience any challenges with trying to provide personalized access to partners that might need support globally and they need access to different market resources? We don't actually have too many problems with that. Our country selector has helped us significantly. Um, we also have harmonized most of our policies across the globe. There might be nuances and we use knowledge blocks and things like that. But for the most part, we don't have too many issues when it comes to knowledge. Cases, we have strong security on cases and how those are collaborated across team, etc. So we do have very robust security when it comes to cases, but for knowledge and things like that, we do accomplish most of it through country selector, through user criteria, etc. We have very few that we truly secure down because they are of a sensitive nature or are specifically just for org leaders, etc. So it's one that we've had challenges with, but we've been able to solve for using the tool. So when we think about employees visiting site daily, weekly, monthly, when we go through and we think about our utilization, we have probably of the 16,000 employees, we see a usage of about 150,000 visits in a month. So we do have good usage of that 50,000. It's about 85% of our employees do go and see it. We do continue, like we're launching news in there. We're working on the intranet going in. So we do suspect that that will dramatically increase once we move the intranet. But right now it is their support portal. It's where they go if they need support for anything. So we do see good volume, but it's not something that people are using as a daily launch pad or anything like that. The conversation management is more just something that we've built internally. That's something that's just a tool that our HRBPs can leverage so that when they're talking to their leaders, they can track actions, they know what they were talking about, they can pick up right where they left off. So it's just a very secure way for them to document their conversation. Being that we're also from HR, they don't put personal information in there or anything like that, opinions, anything like that. It's more of just an ability for them to have continuity of their conversations and continue to drive the needle forward. So that's what we have and why we built that. We do connect to talent management systems. That is for us though, Workday. So Workday handles our performance, our skills, our talent. They have a career hub enabled. They link over to us for questions and answers. So there's deep links throughout Workday that take you back to ServiceNow if you need to. And it is also our LMS. So one of those reasons we were talking about needing a little bit more information from Workday is because we use a significant amount of modules within Workday. We have that as our centralized HCM. So it's really where we're focusing on. So we do heavily integrate with all of those different capabilities, but for us, they all live within Workday. And then I'm cognizant of time. So I will hand it back to you guys for closing, but I will go ahead and put some answers in here as well while you guys close this out.
Thank you so much, Houston, for your amazing deployment story. I'm sure I speak for everyone present on this call. Every word that you spoke, that was gold for all of us. That was a learning experience that almost all of us are going to take back home and probably try to implement some of it for our organizations. And thank you, Christina, for taking on the Q&A and supporting us on this session. I'm going to leave this session with follow-up stories from other organizations who have shared their amazing deployment stories. So if you are looking for additional ideas from other organizations, I'm sharing a link in the chat for organizations who have participated in our Best Employee Portal contest. You can see the top 10 deployments within this link here, and please feel free to take ideas for this year and probably try to participate next year in our Best Employee Portal contest. With that, thank you so much everyone for joining this call. We'll be posting the Q&A for this session on our Employee Center Community Product Hub. So in case you're looking for Q&A, please stay tuned, and we'll be having a replay of this session on 26th of June for the APAC regions specifically. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.